Hello, my name is Colton Soto, and for my extemporary English speech tonight, I would like to answer the following question. How would the abolishment of the Department of Education affect special education students? To answer this question, we need to understand the relationship between the Department of Education and special education students. In 1975, Gerald Ford issued the IDEA Act. The IDEA Act stood for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and what it did was it granted IEPs to students in public schools across the nation. Well, what's an IEP, you may ask? Well, an IEP stands for an Individualized Education Program. What that boils down to is an IEP is a special amenity that allows a student with a disability to function in the classroom. If you go to the Department of Education website, examples are given, such as accessible classrooms, auxiliary aids, taped texts, orally delivered materials, Braille textbooks, special teachers, and more. Now, you may wonder, well, this sounds great, but how does this relate to the Department of Education? Well, these vital amenities that special education students need to succeed in the classroom don't exactly come cheap. Where does this funding come from? Well, it comes from three main sources. First, you find it at the local level, from schools themselves and from outside donations. Second, you find some of it at the state level. And finally, you find a large amount of it coming from the federal level, through the Department of Education. According to usaspending.gov, this year, 2025, $12.6 billion were granted to special needs across the country. Now you may say, well, that number seems pretty high. Are we sure it needs to be that much? Well, it might seem high until you consider that according to Education Week, 7.5 million kids in our population rely on IDEA to succeed in their classes. Now that's kind of a big number. How do you put this into perspective? Well, 7.5 million kids is roughly 15% of our K through 12 population. If the Department of Education were dissolved, were abolished, where would this money go? How would it be successfully distributed throughout these schools? I mean, already under our current system, not enough money is going to where it needs to go. If you look at PAVE Washington, or if you look at Chalkbeat 2023 fiscal report, it found that a majority of federal complaints against education, especially those among civil rights, regard disability. Well, there's one solution to this that's often brought up that involves the Department of Education getting dissolved. What about private schools? Why can't they fill in where public schools fail? Well, there's two main reasons. The first is that private schools are often more expensive than public schools. This essentially blocks education for any special needs child who does not reach a certain economic threshold. The second reason is that according to PAVE Washington, private schools don't need to provide adequate IEPs. They're not required to. So, for all you know, you could be paying for your special needs child to go to a private school where their needs are not adequately met. Of course, that's not always the case, but there's no way to enforce this. On a personal side note, I myself use disability services. I have a disability which can leave me unable to see or type, and thus I have required audio material as well as helping typing for some assignments. My mother was dyslexic. She was raised in a less kind society. While I had access to UIS disability, my mother did not. She was told that she was either lazy or stupid or just bad at reading, when really it was dyslexia, something that we commonly know and try to help people with. What it all boils down to is that if we dissolve the Department of Education, we dissolve the accountability for these people, for these students, for these young children with special needs, that without this proper funding, without these IEPs, and without the amenities they need to realize their full potential, will have their future careers and education vanish along with the department that helps them. Thank you.